evening. We are coming to you from a surrogacy clinic here in the capital today, and the reason that we're doing so is because with me on agenda a special audience of surrogate mothers and doctors who deal with this issue on a day the cabinet has approved the surrogacy bill of 2016. Now this bill virtually puts an end to any kind of commercial surrogacy, especially they're saying for anything else other than the one by a close blood relative. So let's just hear Sushma Swaraj. After that, we'll be speaking to some of the top doctors, some mothers who are now pregnant and carrying surrogate children. We'll speak to them about what they feel about these new provisions which the government claims will actually protect and stop the exploitation of women. But do these women who are with me today, who act as surrogate mothers, do they feel exploited or not? Let's just hear what Sushma Swaraj said today.
मुझे दुख है ये बात कहते हुए कि जो चीज जरूरत के नाम पर शुरू की गई थी वो अब शौक बन गई है। कितने ही ऐसे उदाहरण हमारे सामने और बड़ी सेलिब्रिटीज के हैं जिनका अपना बच्चा एक नहीं दो हैं और बेटा और बेटी दोनों हैं, तो भी उन्होंने सरोगेट चाइल्ड किया है। तो ये जरूरत के लिए तो है अनुमति, शौक के लिए नहीं है। अविवाहित को अनुमति नहीं होगी, सिंगल पेरेंट की अनुमति नहीं होगी, लिव इन रिलेशनशिप की अनुमति नहीं होगी, होमोसेक्सुअल कपल्स को अनुमति नहीं होगी। कानूनी रूप से मेल एंड फीमेल लीगली वेडेड कपल्स को ही ये अनुमति दी जाएगी।
So that statement given by External Affairs Minister and Union Minister Sushma Swaraj explaining the cabinet's decision. So we'll be speaking to major stakeholders today. We have Dr. Naina Patel, who has been one of the pioneers of the surrogacy in India. She's one of the pioneers. She's there. We have Dr. Shivani over here, and also from ICMR, Director General, we have Dr. Swaminathan, and we have all the women behind me, the real stakeholders, and who the government says will be protected by this new legislation. Ma'am, if I can start with you, lots and lots of reactions coming in to this. Now, the first thing that everyone wants to know is that why is it that the government wants to stop a lot of the surrogacies which are on right now? Why is it that so many people, like single people, people who live in, gay couples, there's an end to that kind of surrogacy? Why is it?
The main focus was not on those groups that you're talking about. The focus was really on trying to put an end to commercial surrogacy, because there's been a lot of work done to show that there's a great deal of exploitation going on, that India had actually become a hub for surrogacy. One should know that India is one of the few remaining countries in the world that still permits commercial surrogacy. Apart from Russia and Ukraine and one or two states in the US, every other country in the world, including our neighboring countries, have put an end to commercial surrogacy. Altruistic surrogacy is a different issue. Right. There are needy couples, infertile couples who have no other option, and there the government is very open to allowing them to go for surrogacy in a well-regulated setting. So it's really the commercial aspect and the exploitation aspect, and particularly the fact that most of these women who come forward to be surrogate mothers are poor women, and so it's a very exploitative relationship, and that's the reason why the government has stepped up to really protect.
Ma'am, that sounds like a really good objective actually, to protect these women. Now we have the women who are here, some of them are pregnant right now, so their situation becomes really poignant because at the moment they're carrying surrogate children and a lot of them are worried about it. आप बताना चाहेंगी मैम सरकार से हैं और एक्सप्लेन कर रही हैं कि किस लिए वो बंद कर रही हैं जो आप लोग काम करते हैं। आप बताना चाहेंगे कि क्या ये जब आपने सुना कि सरकार का नया बिल आया है, आपको क्या चिंता हो रही है?
हमें तो ये लगता है कि सरकार बैन नहीं करना चाहिए, बंद नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हम लोग गरीबों को बहुत मदद मिल रही है इससे।
किस तरह की मदद आप बताएंगे? हमारे दर्शकों को भी और मैम को भी बताएंगे किस तरह की मदद? पैसे मिल रहे हैं?
पैसे मिल रहे हैं, ये तो हम एक दान भी कर रहे हैं, पैसे मिल रहे हैं, इसमें बहुत बड़ी फायदा हो रही है हम लोग को। बच्चों, हम लोग तो गरीब है, हम लोग को बच्चे घर नहीं है, बच्चे पढ़ाने हैं, हम लोग का हस्बैंड नहीं है, तो हम लोग ये करके अपना बच्चों को लाइफ बना रहे, किसी को दे रहे तो हम एक खुशी दे रहे किसी को उसके
she told me earlier that she is carrying a surrogate for a couple who's in South India. She's a surrogate for a couple here in Delhi. She's also a surrogate for them, and we'll speak to Dr. Shivani right now. But when you hear her saying that, they feel exploited now that they're and isn't the whole thing of autonomy and reproductive rights and self-determination of that part of it, or how do you respond to what she's saying?
Well, I think she's obviously got a point. You know, poverty in our country forces people to do all kinds of things. We have to think of her family situation. You know, she has to be away from her family and her children and her husband in order to do this. And if she's going to do this repeatedly, what's as an earning mechanism, what's going to be the effect on her health? And in case something goes wrong during pregnancy and something's wrong with the child, we have any number of cases where neither the woman nor the surrogate, the child born out of this, have been protected in any way. So if everything goes well, yes, you know, she gets a little bit of money, as she said, she can pay some fees, she can build off. But is this what we want India to be? To be a nation where women have to rent out their wombs so that they can have a living?
Interesting point. Dr. Naina Patel, maybe you should answer what Dr. Soumya is raising over here as a representative of the government, DG ICMR, saying that most of the countries also don't have it. So why is it that there is such a lot of outrage that we see from people? How do you respond to what she's saying, Dr. Patel?
I think when we see that India is a democratic, progressive country, and when infertility is definitely a taboo and an issue in India, then why we should not do it? That is what I am asking. Why we ask the other way around? Yes, USA is doing it in a big way. Israel, Ukraine, Canada, Australia, even UK is doing, they say altruistic, but the module is not working, it has failed over there. If there are certain countries like Germany, which allows legally prostitution, does not allow surrogacy, that means we should follow Germany, not allow surrogacy and legally allow prostitution. It is not like that. We have to think in a neutral way that this is a technology which is helping so many couples, which is helping so many unfortunate women like surrogate mothers to have an opportunity to earn, and which is bringing beautiful children on this earth. We should take our own decision, not follow what other countries are doing.
Do you want to respond to her? This is Dr. Naina Patel who, yeah.
Yes. Couple of things. I mean, yes, we are a democratic country and everybody has a right. So we must ask ourselves the question, why are only poor women coming forward for surrogacy? If it was due to altruism and if it was due to the goodness of our heart, you and me should also be going and volunteering ourselves to be surrogate mothers. All the research shows 99% of illiterate and very poor women. So that's the first thing. So it's an unequal relationship to begin with. And secondly, we studied all the laws of the different countries. Yes, we could have completely banned surrogacy. Many countries have done that. But the Indian government...
Like which ones, ma'am? Completely banned?
In fact, the European Union is completely banned. UK and a few others allow altruistic surrogacy. So the government wanted to keep that window of opportunity open because there are a number of infertile couples now who need alternate options. Of course, government also wants to promote adoption as the first option for a parent, whether it's a single person or a gay couple who wants to have a child. There are lots of children who need homes.
Okay, Dr. Shivani, you want to ask something about it? What are your main concerns? Because now you run, you help surrogate people who want opt for surrogacy. The government's new bill also says no more. There are 3,000 clinics, no more surrogate clinics. So how do you respond to this new legislation?
As Madam has already said that majority of the people are who are doing surrogacy for a compensation. So if you are going to stop that, in essence, you are stopping it completely. So the government tells people that we are stopping it, but what is the alternative? There is no alternative for these women that is being provided. So that is one thing. Secondly, 500 surrogate mothers are represented by a lawyer, Ms. Radhika Thapar, in the Supreme Court of India. And they need to be heard, but unfortunately they have not yet got the opportunity to even present what they have to say. So that is something, as Dr. Naina Patel said, in a democracy everybody has a right to be heard. And if you are talking about
you mean they weren't consulted by the government as stakeholders?
Ma'am, that is what is being said by their lawyer in the Honorable Supreme Court of India.
Okay. Dr. Patel, if you can answer what Dr. Swaminathan just raised, that isn't it, how do you respond to the fact that most of the surrogates are women who are economically backward, that it is an unequal relationship, that by offering them money, it is in a way exploitative. How would you counter that?
If the female had an opportunity to do her own earning, then hello. So what I am saying is that how can you say that she is voluntarily an adult choosing it to do it? She knows that she is going to get money out of this and she is going to help her family. It's a voluntary choice. She is not being pushed into it. She is in fact being helped. So I would say that we cannot be judgmental that she is being exploited and the poor women are pushed into it. I have had surrogates who are double graduate, BCom, LLB and MA, BEd also, who had a financial crisis and have become surrogates. So they are intelligent enough to understand that this is what they are doing and this is what they are getting. We cannot be judgmental and say that they are being exploited just because they are poor, they are being pushed into it. If they are poor and if they want to do it, if they want to become a laborer, they become a laborer. That is also an exploitation. Why rich people are not building their own houses and doing labor work or doing their maid's job? Why are they employing maids? In the same aspect, you can see this, that she doesn't want to become a maid, but she wants to become a surrogate and help somebody in a nice way. She can do that. So I really do not agree with Swaminathan on this point.
Okay, and what's interesting is that that's not the only group. There are lots of groups. Harish Iyer, single people, gay people have been completely cut out of it. In fact, what Sushma Swaraj said in the press conference today, that it's not part of our ethos. Is there something, how would you react to this?
I find it absolutely appalling that that they could make something like make a statement like that. I believe that India is a country that respects people. Our history shows that we respect people from all sexualities and all genders. And to issue a statement like that India is not ready for homosexuality and it's against Indian ethos, is in fact against Indian culture. So I want to hit back at Sushma Swaraj and tell her that she's speaking something against my culture, against the culture of my country. The second thing about surrogacy, okay, I also believe that, okay, women don't need to be, there are a lot of female children, there are a lot of children, in fact, who are out in the streets and who are in adoption agencies. Have we done our bit in strengthening our laws, our procedures in such a way that gay people, single parents can easily go and adopt children? Adoption is a painful process in our country. And for gay people, like if I tell you that I am financially stable and I want to adopt a child, will you allow me to adopt? I mean, as a gay man, as an out and proud gay man, do I have the right to adopt? I don't.
Harish, yeah, that's a really good point. And ma'am, actually, just to point out that just a few months ago, Maneka Gandhi had to specially step in the case of one single man in Bhopal who wanted to adopt an autistic child, and the minister had to step in and tell them, please, because the rules went against it. So it's a valid question. We heard today the government saying, go for adoption. If you're any of these groups, go for adoption. But isn't it very, very difficult? And isn't this door of, by the surrogacy bill, completely closed the option now of them having children?
So I think the adoption laws have definitely become more open now and flexible to allow single people as well as gay couples to adopt children, so that there's definitely that option open. And I think adoption is something where you're giving a child a home.
Yeah.
You're giving a child a life. Whereas with surrogacy, you're actually commissioning a baby and trying to bring it into the world. So I think the whole idea around this is really to try and restrict surrogacy to situations where all other options are over, and not have it as the first choice. Now people sometimes even just prefer to go for a surrogate child rather than go through a pregnancy and all the pain of pregnancy themselves. So we want to discourage that kind of an atmosphere where it's so easy that you go for a surrogate mother instead of doing it yourself.
Okay, very quickly, and then we want to speak to someone in the UK. Yeah.
You know, I believe becoming a surrogate mother is still better than, you know, women getting dragged into, you know, jobs like becoming a sex worker or doing something, you know, very...
It's less exploitative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get ma'am to respond to that. And still coming up after the break, we'll speak to Reshma Ben, who's joining us from London, about how she had a surrogate baby in India last year, and now the new bill will mean women like her will have that door closed as well. We'll speak to her in just a bit, and also to more of the women who are behind me, surrogate mothers. Stay with us on Agenda. Welcome back on Agenda. We're speaking about the new Surrogacy Act, the new bill which Cabinet has approved today, which actually puts an end to any kind of commercial surrogacy and no more surrogacy clinics at all. We have Dr. Sushma Swaminathan from the government, from ICMR, and also joining us, Reshma Ben, who is a mother joining us from London, who came to India and had a baby thanks to surrogacy. Reshma, when you hear that the government now says that no NRIs, no foreigners can now come to India to have children, surrogate children, how do you respond to that?
It is very, very sad for everybody all over the world who are childless couples. We have tried numerous times to get pregnant, adoption, you name it, we've gone through it. I have many friends in the UK who've tried with me, you know, for the past 15 years, we've been trying. Our last thing was surrogacy. And for India and Dr. Naina Patel, you know, I commend them that they've given us a chance to become mothers and parents. And not just that, these surrogates themselves, they are happy and willing to do it. I spoke to my surrogate myself. I didn't have anybody in the room. I asked her all the questions necessary. Is she happy? Is she pushed into it? And she was more than happy to do it because they're making a life for themselves too, not just us. Not they're giving us children, but they're also providing for their children, their future, their education, their home life. And I'm getting a child after 15 years. For me, this is an amazing thing to do. So it is very, very sad to hear that the government has banned this. And there are many, many, many childless couples out there who are saddened by this, and to hear that it's been banned by India.
Okay, Dr. Swaminathan, she's an Indian. What was the fear that the government had with people coming in from abroad for surrogacy?
The problem with the foreign surrogate, the commissioning parents, was that there were issues with a number of things. One was that in many countries, surrogacy is not recognized, and therefore there were visa issues and citizenship issues. So once the baby is born here, if the parents had not declared beforehand that they were coming here for surrogacy, there were exit visa issues and also citizenship issues for the child. And then there have been cases where the couple has either got divorced during these 9 months, or has changed their mind, or the child has been born with a defect, a physical or a mental defect, or that there have been multiple children born and the parents only want one. And in all these cases, the children have been abandoned or left behind.
So how many children were abandoned like this?
So there have been at least 4 or 5 documented cases in India. So it's very difficult to control this whole thing when, you know, people are coming in from abroad and doing it. So that's why the government decided to restrict it only to Indian citizens.
So these are genuine problems, Dr. Shimani. So how would you have, as a doctor, how would you have tackled this, if not the stopping it altogether like the government
Yeah, but see, what I would like to say is that it is really tragic something like that has happened, but I know of one of those cases that was actually a Hindu Adoption Act, so it was not adoption. So one of the part is like misreporting. The second part is that any industry, Sunetra, anybody has 10% problem. How can you abolish that? Every single profession has 10% problems. How many things will you ban? It is a mature democracy or a regressive form of governance.
Okay, and I think last word has to go to these women. आप में से कोई, अगर सरकार में से सुषमा जी, सरकार वाले कोई देख रहे हैं, आप कुछ बताना चाहेंगे? क्योंकि आप ही लोग हैं. You know, these mothers, they've been telling us how a lot of them have earned a living because of them and they get paid considerably about more than a lakh. Yeah, आप क्या बोलना चाहेंगी?
मैं ये बोलना चाहती हूँ कि मैं जो कर रही हूँ मैं अपने बच्चे के लिए कर रही हूँ। मेरे हस्बैंड मेरे साथ नहीं रहते हैं, तो मैं अपने बच्चे के लिए करना चाहती हूँ कुछ। और मेरी इतनी हैसियत नहीं है कि मैं जो जॉब कर सकती हूँ, क्योंकि मैं पढ़ी लिखी नहीं हूँ। मैं सरकार मुझे क्या देगी? कुछ नहीं देगी। ये करके मैं अपने बच्चे का भविष्य बनाना चाहती हूँ, उसको पढ़ाना लिखाना चाहती हूँ। और ये गलत काम नहीं है, ये बहुत अच्छा काम है। और मेरी यही प्रार्थना है कि इसको बंद ना करें।
So Dr. Swaminathan, there is still hope that she will be heard.
Of course, this is going to go to Parliament. There will be again wide stakeholder consultations. All voices will be heard,
Yeah.
and then a final bill will be enacted.
Harish, we are totally out of time, but I wanted to ask you if there's one thing, that one compelling reason that you want the government to have a relook, what would that be?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Harish Iyer, if there's one thing that the government should rethink, what would that be?
I think the government should rethink, if this is about women's rights and this thing, they should be thinking about the rights of these women. What are the alternate professions that are going to be given to them? Why did these women land up in a state of poverty? Why wasn't our Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao able to reach them? And I would also like to respond to Dr. Swaminathan's claim. Homosexual couples, I was in fact happy that Sushma Swaraj mentioned the word homosexual couples. Homosexual couples have no identity in our country, and homosexual couples cannot adopt in our country. So if there's one compelling thing that I want the government to think about, is to think about the rights of everybody, also the rights about the rights of the people who are sitting just behind you, Sunetra.
Okay, thanks so much. And I want to really thank the women who've come here, the mothers, surrogate mothers, to tell us their stories. And I hope the government's listening to them. And as ma'am said, there's one stage as well, that's the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which the bill may go to, where perhaps they will be heard as stakeholders. Thanks to all our guests on Agenda. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.